On March 15th, 44 BC, Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome, walked into a meeting of the Senate. He would never walk out. He was surrounded by men he considered allies, colleagues, even friends. He was stabbed 23 times. This single act of betrayal didn't just end one man's life, it plunged a civilization into chaos and forever altered the course of history. This is the story of ambition, loyalty, and the assassination that destroyed the Roman Republic. Julius Caesar was born in 100 BC into a noble, yet not particularly wealthy, Roman family, but from a young age it was clear he was destined for greatness. Caesar was a man of immense talent and even greater ambition. He was a brilliant military strategist, a gifted orator, and a cunning politician. He climbed the ladder of Roman politics, making powerful alliances and building a reputation as a man of the people. His legendary conquest of Gaul, a vast territory covering modern-day France, brought him immense wealth, glory, and the unwavering loyalty of his legions. To the common people of Rome, he was a hero. But to the elite senators, he was becoming a terrifying threat to their power and the traditions of the Republic. In 49 BC, the simmering tension between Caesar and the Senate boiled over. The Senate, led by his rival Pompey the Great, feared Caesar's popularity and the strength of his army. They issued an ultimatum: disband your legions and return to Rome as a private citizen. Caesar knew that to do so would mean political ruin and likely death. He stood with his army at the edge of the Rubicon River, the northern boundary of Italy. To cross it with his army was an act of treason, a declaration of war against his own country. With the now famous words, "The die is cast," Caesar led his 13th Legion across the river. Civil war was inevitable. Caesar's military genius proved unstoppable. He pursued Pompey across the globe, eventually defeating his forces and establishing himself as the undisputed master of the Roman world. Returning to Rome victorious, Caesar's power was absolute. He was declared dictator, and eventually dictator for life, an unprecedented title that shattered Roman tradition. In this role, he enacted sweeping reforms. He reorganized the government, settled his veterans on public land, and even reformed the calendar, creating the Julian calendar that, with a few adjustments, we still use today. He was surprisingly merciful to his former enemies, pardoning many who had fought against him. Rome was stabilized, and for many it was a time of prosperity. But his accumulation of power deeply unsettled the Roman aristocracy. They saw the Republic, which had stood for nearly 500 years, crumbling before their eyes. Whispers grew louder that Caesar intended to make himself a king, a title the Romans had abhorred since they overthrew their last monarch centuries earlier. The fear of a new monarchy ignited a conspiracy. A group of more than 60 senators, calling themselves the Liberators, decided that the only way to save the Republic was to kill the dictator. They believed they were acting not out of personal hatred, but out of a patriotic duty to Rome. The leader of this plot was a man Caesar trusted and admired, Marcus Junius Brutus. Caesar had treated Brutus like a son, promoting his career and forgiving him for fighting on Pompey's side during the civil war. But Brutus, a descendant of the man who had helped expel Rome's last king, felt a heavy ancestral burden to defend the Republic from tyranny. The conspirators meticulously planned their attack, choosing a specific date and location, the Ides of March, during a Senate meeting at the theatre of Pompey. As Caesar entered the chamber on that fateful day, he was greeted by the senators. One of them, Julius Caesar, approached him with a petition, pulling at his toga as a prearranged signal. Suddenly, the others moved in, surrounding him. Daggers, hidden beneath their clothes, were drawn. The first blow was struck, and then another, and another. Caesar fought back at first, but the attack was overwhelming. Then, through the chaos of flailing arms and shining blades, he saw a familiar face among his assassins, Brutus. According to the historian Suetonius, upon seeing his trusted friend with a dagger raised, Caesar ceased his struggle. His final words, immortalized by Shakespeare, were whispered in disbelief and sorrow, et tu, Brute. You too, Brutus. He fell at the base of a statue of his former rival, Pompey, having been stabbed 23 times. The assassins, their hands and togas stained with Caesar's blood, expected to be hailed as heroes. They marched to the Forum, proclaiming that they had freed Rome from a tyrant, but they misjudged the people. Instead of celebration, they were met with stunned silence, then growing horror and anger. The citizens of Rome had loved Caesar. He was their champion. The city descended into chaos. At Caesar's public funeral, his loyal friend and co-consul, Mark Antony, delivered a masterful eulogy, displaying Caesar's bloody toga and reading from his will, which left a generous sum to every Roman citizen. Antony whipped the crowd into a furious mob. The people turned on the conspirators, hunting them through the streets and burning down their homes. The liberators had not saved the Republic. They had ignited its funeral pyre. Brutus, Cassius, and the other assassins were forced to flee Rome. The assassination did not restore the Republic. It triggered another brutal civil war. On one side were the conspirators, fighting to preserve their vision of a free Rome. On the other was a new alliance formed by Mark Antony and Caesar's young, brilliant grandnephew and adopted heir, Octavian. 2 years after Caesar's death, their armies met at the Battle of Philippi. The forces of Brutus and Cassius were crushed. Seeing that all was lost, Brutus took his own life, reportedly using the same dagger he had used to stab Caesar. His dream of a restored republic died with him. The betrayal of Julius Caesar stands as one of history's great turning points. The conspirators who killed him to prevent a king ironically paved the way for an emperor out of the ashes of the civil war that followed. Caesar's heir, Octavian, would rise. He would consolidate power, hunt down every last one of his adoptive father's assassins, and eventually be renamed Augustus, becoming Rome's first true emperor. The Roman Republic was gone forever, replaced by the Roman Empire, which would dominate the Western world for the next 500 years. The story of Caesar's fall is a timeless warning that ambition can be a double-edged sword and that acts of betrayal, even when committed in the name of a noble cause, often unleash consequences far more destructive than the problem they were meant to solve. Thank you for watching. If you found this story fascinating, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more journeys into the most dramatic moments in history.